Hey everyone, so this is Love is Blind, um, Mexico's episodes 9 and 10. Um, and so this is the Bachelorette and Bachelor Party episodes and wedding episodes. Um, so basically, we pick up where we left off, where Fernando's not really liking that Karen is using anxiety as a reason to smoke. Um, and because he's like, well, there's always going to be stress, um, and like ups and downs within a relationship. Um, so it's not feasible to um, smoke whenever you feel stress. Um, and so she's asking him, what if I can't quit? And he's like, well, I will leave. Um, she tries to explain her position, but eventually gives up and goes to smoke. Now, supposedly, she says that because the last time we saw this be an issue, um, is what I'm assuming is the only other time that it was an issue, and so assuming it's supposedly um, they had brought up that question of what if I can't quit, and he was like, well, it's fine. I mean, it's fine if you can't. I'll still be here. But now he's changing his tune. I don't know if that's true or not, but um, I do. What I do see is that they're not coming to a sort of solution as to how to come to a compromise. And like he's not suggesting, because eventually what he does suggest is that she doesn't have to quit right away, like right before the wedding, but she has to at least try to quit smoking. Um, but he didn't do that initially. He just said, um, I'm just gonna leave. So, I mean, unless they show that footage of him being consistent and saying, I'm gonna leave if you can't stop smoking, I'm gonna be like, well, you're not really giving her any solutions as to how to help her stop or, give a, time frame that you're willing to accept of when she should or you would like her to stop smoking. So, I mean, I don't know. It was looking a little dicey for them in that moment. Um, but they did come to a resolution, like I said, where he's like, he said, you don't have to quit smoking right away. You can um, quit after. Um, you can quit. You can start trying to quit after the wedding. Um, So we then go to Gerardo and Fernanda, who go on a date, and he says he still isn't 100% sure yet. So he brings up, that morning after he went straight to sleep, and the next morning she, you know, wasn't feeling too good about that. Um, and she's like, "Well, you're taking things out of context." Um, And then, next thing you know, he whips out his guitar and sings her a song that he wrote um, about their journey so far. Um, Chema's daughter comes over for a visit, so all three can bond, and Sylvia enjoys that, especially seeing, that side of him where he um, shows up as, the in the father role. So Elise and Renee go on a date, and again, Elise brings up that she doesn't like the drinking because she doesn't know if Renee will get physical when he's drunk. Girl, I am so tired of you bringing that shit up. You have not said a single thing so far that suggests that he has gotten even close to being physical towards you when he has been drinking. You haven't even hinted at that. Now, unless sometime between the end of filming for this show and the reunion that is airing on Sunday, he has showed that, okay, that is one thing. But at this point, you're beating a dead horse, and I need you to stop. This is ridiculous at this point. People are not going to keep putting up with stuff that you keep accusing them of that they didn't do. They're not going to keep doing that. So I'm just like, please stop it. I beg of you. He then mentions that one of his sisters who initially said no to come into the wedding has actually bought a dress and will attend. But his father still isn't planning on coming. So he's sad about that, which is, I wouldn't expect him to be happy about it. So, but, he's figuring that, the reason why his father isn't going to go is because he sprung, all this detail on his father, last second. So then we see a montage of everyone signing documents to ask permission to get married. And they're like, well, and there was this one question of what will happen if they decide to get a divorce and they're going to split everything down the middle, like all the assets and stuff like that down the middle. Back at Fernanda and Gerardo's apartment, they bring up the conversation of where the dogs are going to live, like inside or outside. So he says that he's open to like two specific options. One of them being that the dogs live outside for a few days to a week to transition them living together. And then another option is they come inside during the day but must sleep outside because he has dogs himself. I think he has like two dogs, and while Fernanda has the one, and he would prefer them living outside rather than being inside while they, at night. I mean, I don't mind dogs being inside personally, just as long as they're not like licking me in the mouth or getting up on. I mean, I don't. Fernanda's dog is pretty big, so I don't expect him to be up on the counters. But if you have a small dog or something like that, don't put that dog on the counter. Same way with cats. Don't let your cats roam on the counters or anything like that. That is seriously unsanitary. But I mean, from the sounds of it, he doesn't let his dogs do that anyway. So, I mean, I don't think that's going to be a problem. But yeah, I mean, so he's, like I said, basically the type that wants his dogs to sleep outside. She would rather her dog sleep inside. And he's like, well, if we decide to let the dog sleep inside, I don't want dog hair everywhere, which I understand because dogs can shed a lot, just like cats can shed a lot. So, you know, so he then asks, "Will they live in Monterey?" And she's like, "Well, I don't know." Um, Next scene is the girls and the guys all going separately to the bachelorette and bachelor parties. And then basically, I think it's just the women and the men who were in the pods come to celebrate with them. I don't think any of the guys or girls, friends and family came to celebrate with them, but I could be wrong. So we then, after like, a montage of them dancing and drinking and whatever, Fernanda is talking. I don't remember who she's talking to. I think it was one of the women that didn't, it was kind of like in the background of the pod episodes, but she's talking to someone and she's like, well, I don't think Gerardo is trying to get to know the real me, because he told me that he doesn't love me before going to the bachelor party. And then he's explaining to someone, I don't remember who it was, but he was explaining that, or I think he was explaining to a couple of the guys that she has it in her head that he doesn't exercise at all, because he's explaining like I go hiking. At first he says I go hiking once a month, and he says I could go hiking once I go hiking once a week. Okay, so I'm like, which is it? Do you go hiking once a week or do you go hiking once a month? Because that is drastically different levels of how active you are. Because if you only go once a month, that's not very active. But obviously, if you go once a week, you are pretty active. So, which is it? Are you active, or are you going once a month, or are you going once a week? And so to her, that means that he's lazy. Essentially, is what he's saying. And so eventually Alejandra comes to the bachelorette party, and Sylvia and Fernando squash their beef. Still don't understand what the fuck that beef was, but whatever. All the girls then all decide to go crash the men's bachelor party. So once the girls are all there, Gerardo's like, can I get a hug? Can I get a real hug? And she's like, no, because you don't love me. I'm like, girl, you are so passive aggressive. I'm like, I mean, I get it. If that's what you thought you heard, I don't know for sure if that's what he said. Because what he explains is that he says, I'm in love, but I'm not sure if I'm in love enough to get married. So that's what he says. I don't know who's telling the truth, who's not. However, if he really didn't, if what he said is true, and you only thought you heard, I don't actually love you, then either way, it's still passive aggressive in my opinion. I don't know. I mean, you can't even be civil and just like give. You don't even have to give like, I don't know, but it's giving passive aggression. So I'm like, please stop. Alejandra then goes to speak with Chema, and she's like, I think he's attractive, but I'm gonna respect him, his and Sylvia's relationship. Okay. if that were true, why in the hell do you go over to Sylvia 2 seconds later and ask her and you basically ask her, you know, like these like leading questions like, are you okay, or how's it going between you and Chema? It's like, well, girl, why do you care? If you respect her so much and her relationship with Chema, you wouldn't care. You would not care. You would go about your business. But you know, um, so Sylvia is like, girl, I don't care. She eventually says, I don't care what the hell your issue is. I don't care um, to to hear anything about what you think is wrong or anything like that. I'm like, girl, yes, please, because I'm like, ugh. So Willie and Francesca are back in their apartment, and he tells her that they aren't compatible because she needs mental stimulation and he doesn't. She asks where is this coming from, and he says that they didn't spend any time together once everyone had linked up. I'm like, I don't know. This is getting weird. It like we're back at it this again. Eh, I'm like, please stop it. Um, Now she's fed up because he has said this, multiple times, and I get it. I get it. At this point, I mean, if I have to keep talking you off a ledge after he keeps saying this multiple times, then I'm gonna get pissed off too, to be quite honest. Um, Willie leaves for an hour and a half to think. Eventually comes back, and I guess they kind of make up because they eventually go to the wedding, the wedding reception and everything, or wedding ceremony and stuff like that. So, um, back in Fernanda and Gerardo's apartment, he's explaining in a solo confessional that he had told Fernanda that he is in love with her, like I said, but just isn't sure if he's in love enough to get married. Um, so he's like, well, why are we still in a relationship when you don't even know for sure? Like, well, that's the whole point of this process, girl, is to figure out if I'm in love with you enough to get married after 3 or 4 weeks. That is the whole point. So, um, yeah, it's just, and then, he asks, should we end this? And she's like, well, yeah, we should end it because, like, well, but you should be the one to end it because you're an asshole. And he's like, excuse me? What did you just say? It was like, I said, you're an asshole because you don't have the balls to end it. Um, and so he's, packing up some of his things at the very least and trying to get out of the apartment. So what she decides to do is cover a camera with a blanket, and it sounds like she is throwing things at him. And I'm like, did we step into the never ever mets? Because that's what this is giving. Because there was Sienna and Brandon, where Sienna was calling him out of his name and throwing things at him. And I'm like, do we just step into that back again? Because what in the world? Where did this come from? I'm like, I'm glad they ended it because they did eventually end it. So I'm glad they ended it because that's not going to work. If you're going to be throwing things because you're highly upset where you get so upset that you can't regulate yourself to a point where you calm down, then yeah, end it. End it. Um, so it's the day before the wedding, and both Karen and Fernando and Chema and Sylvia go on these romantic dates. The first, Karen actually surprises Fernando and with a helicopter ride and a little romantic picnic. Now, I said this before, and they never ever met lives. Don't ever bring me outside to eat somewhere like that. I mean, I get it. This is not the other side of the road, but I mean, I don't know how cold it gets there down in Mexico City, but during December, but if it's not cold enough to get rid of mosquitoes and bugs, don't take me outside to eat somewhere, please. Anyway, so the next day we start seeing our first wedding, which is Irais and Renee. And then, they get dressed and all that stuff. And I barely paid attention to the getting dressed part. I mean, I even kind of skipped a little bit, if I'm being quite honest. I listened to, paid attention to some of it, but not all of it. But eventually they get to the part where the officiant is asking, well, do you take her? The officiant asks Renee if he will take Karen or Irais, sorry, to be his wife. And the episode cuts off right there. So you pick up in episode 10, we pick up where it left off, where he says he isn't ready to take the next step into marriage. Even though he found someone magical. And you know what cracked me up? That one sister was sitting there grinning like the Cheshire cat. I was like, now you ain't shit. Because, girl, what in the world? Like, what? Anyways, the next wedding that we see is for Sylvia and Chema. And I will say Sylvia looks absolutely gorgeous in that dress. I'm like, that was a really beautiful dress she picked out. Even though I did like the other one that she had tried on, the one she ended up picking was absolutely stunning. And I'm not much of a dress person, so but that dress looked absolutely gorgeous on her. Absolutely gorgeous. So what they end up doing, though, is they decide to end up dating for now instead of actually making it official. I don't know if that works for them. I'm not gonna, be too hard on it. But because I think I actually like them together. So I mean, if they feel like they need a little bit more time before making it official, hey, I'm not gonna knock it. We eventually see Irais asking Renee, what happened and why he said no. He says there's a couple of reasons, but one reason that he mentions is that his father was staunchly refusing to come because he thought that it was too the time span of this process was too soon to be saying I love you and getting married. I don't think that was the sole reason, but that seems like the main reason, I guess. So they also decide to keep just dating for now. Karen and Fernando's wedding comes up, next, where Karen and Fernando both say yes. Um, and he actually gives Emmy, her daughter, a bracelet that he made for her. Um, so one couple made it official so far. Francesca and Willie. It's the last wedding that we see officially happen, um, where she says that she has decided not to marry Willie because he he's not ready to spread his wings and fly. Basically, is what she said. Um, so um, and basically, he's not ready to handle like an outspoken woman yet. I think is basically what she said, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, only one person or one couple got hitched for real, for real. Um, Everyone else either bit the dust long before this point, or if they managed to get to this point, said no or said yes to dating. Um, Personally, I don't think Renee and either East need to be dating, because for two reasons. I don't think she is willing to let go of the endless need to keep bringing up the same topics like his drinking. Um, I don't think she's ready to stop bringing it up. And he's going to end up getting resentful because of that. So I don't think they need to keep dating personally. And to be honest, if come Sunday they are not dating anymore, I wouldn't be surprised that that would be a reason as to why he decided to stop dating her. Um, but on the flip side, with him, I don't think his family would have been accepting of anyone really, no matter if the process had been weeks or months, as opposed to, or I should say, months, like 2+ months in the making, rather than a month and some change. So I don't think that and until he can kind of grow a backbone and stand up to them, they don't need to be dating each other. And like I said, for two various reasons. Um, so we'll see what happens on Sunday when it comes to where everyone is at, whether Karen and Fernando have stayed married, if Chema and Sylvia have stayed, continued dating, if Idris and Renee have continued dating, or if anyone from the pod or anyone in this process has started dating someone else from the pods or whatever. So we'll see. Um, Let me know in the comments what you thought of who said yes, whether marriage or dating, and who said no, and if you were surprised at all. And I will see you guys maybe depending on the reunion drops on Sunday. I might put it out Sunday. If not, I'll put it out Monday, but maybe Tuesday, depending. But until then, let me know what you guys think of the bachelorette parties and the weddings.